Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Marissa Adams, and I'm the marketing manager here at Trace Security. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end during Q&A. We will be sending out the slides and recording to all attendees next week. And to get us started, I'm going to introduce Trace Security and give you some background on our expertise in information security. With 20 years in business, Trace Security continues to be a leading provider of cybersecurity and compliance solutions. Our company was founded on February 18, 2004, as one of the first technology companies to incubate in the Louisiana Technology Park. Our company's mission at its founding was simple: to help banks and credit unions protect their customer and member information and comply with DLBA, FFIEC, and NCUA requirements. Since then, Trace Security has served over 3,000 organizations across the United States. We maintain a strategic alliance with America's credit unions, which positions us as their exclusive provider of cybersecurity and compliance services. Trace Security's comprehensive portfolio of solutions allow organizations to manage their information security program through IT risk assessments and audits, social engineering, penetration testing, security training, and more. At this time, I'd like to turn things over to AJay Strong and Jordan Kalms, two of our information security analysts, who are excited to dive into the MGM attack with you all today.
Hello, my name is AJay Strong. I began working with Trace Security around this time last year. I'm also an instructor at a cybersecurity boot camp, and I'm enrolled at Western Governors University, earning a bachelor's in cybersecurity and information assurance.
Hey everyone, my name is Jordan Kalms. I also started at Trace last year, and before joining the team here, I received my cybersecurity certification from Caltech. I am CompTIA Security Plus certified, and my undergraduate degree is in English Literature from Columbia University. So in September of 2023, the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer resorts fell victim to one of the most high-profile cyber attacks of the decade. MGM, located on the Strip in Las Vegas, is the largest single building hotel in the world, with 5,124 rooms. This attack was perpetrated by Scattered Spider and Black Cat, two cybercriminal organizations known for targeting large companies using social engineering such as phishing and vishing, which are malicious emails or calls intended to elicit private information. The hack is notable for three reasons. 1, the access point, 2, the cost, and 3, the reputational damage. So number 1, the access point. This attack was not perpetrated using extremely complex code or a virus or a Trojan or a worm. Rather, the attackers gained access to MGM's internal systems by calling its help desk, impersonating employees, and requesting new login credentials. In other words, this was a basic social engineering attack that demonstrates the high level of risk associated with phishing and vishing. Number 2, the cost. Once the attackers gained access to MGM's network, data was encrypted with ransomware, and multiple systems were brought offline for over 10 days. During this time, service disruptions included disabling online reservation systems, digital room keys, slot machines, and even the hotel's main website. Guests found themselves waiting in hours-long lines to check in and get physical room keys, or getting handwritten receipts for their casino winnings. This reportedly cost MGM over $100 million in lost revenue, in addition to a $10 million one-time fee for expenses related to the cybersecurity maintenance. Finally, number 3, the reputational damage. MGM Resorts' share price fell 4.1% within 48 hours of the attack. On top of this, there has been lasting reputational damage as hotel guest data has been exposed on the dark web. The loss of this PII has resulted in a class action lawsuit being brought against MGM in the U.S. District Court of Nevada, alleging negligence and failure to protect customer information. And with all that said, AJay will now walk us through the first stage of the MGM hack, the gathering of open source intelligence.
Thanks, Jordan. While the specifics are still under investigation, one crucial element was at play with the MGM Cyberattack, and that is open source intelligence, or OSINT. I'd like to provide an overview of OSINT, explore its uses, and see how it might have played a role in the MGM breach. So what is OSINT? In a nutshell, it is the vast ocean of publicly available information that can be accessed by anyone. We're talking news articles, social media posts, company websites, and even government filings. OSINT is the art of gathering and analyzing this information to gain valuable insights, primarily about a target. Anyone with an internet connection can collect OSINT, but the real skill lies in sifting through the data and extracting meaningful intel. OSINT has many uses. Businesses use it for market research and competitor analysis. Law enforcement leverages it for investigations, while journalists rely on it to verify information and uncover unhidden truths. The exact methods used by Scattered Spider and Black Cat remain unconfirmed, but we know OSINT likely played a role in their pre-attack reconnaissance. They had to collect intel on their target. News articles or industry reports could have revealed details about MGM's IT infrastructure, security practices, or upcoming events, providing clues for exploitation. It's possible that they sifted through social media profiles to identify MGM employees with high-level access, or those managing IT help desk functions, which are prime targets for social engineering attacks like the phishing call that was used against MGM. A close examination of MGM's website and public filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission could have revealed details about their technology partners and vendors, and even the software they use, because information about outdated systems or specific software versions can be very valuable for attackers. So, as you can see, there are many different ways to leverage OSINT. And this MGM Cyberattack really highlights the importance of understanding open source intelligence. By managing their online footprint and educating employees, organizations can make themselves less vulnerable to attackers who exploit publicly available information. In a sense, OSINT is a double-edged sword. While it empowers attackers, it also empowers defenders to stay vigilant and build a robust cybersecurity posture. And I'm going to hand it back over to Jordan now. He's going to talk about the next attack phase that was used against MGM.
Thanks, AJ. So once the attackers had gathered open source intelligence on MGM employees, such as their names, job titles, emails, phone numbers, and perhaps even personal information gathered from social media, such as the names of their family members or where they attended high school, they were able to proceed to the next stage of the attack, spear phishing. So what is spear phishing? As a brief overview, phishing is the practice of sending emails or messages to elicit personal information or to induce a user to click on a malicious link. Spear phishing is the use of open source intelligence to target a phishing campaign to certain personnel. If only high-level personnel, such as C-suite executives or upper-level management, are targeted, the practice is known as whaling. If a subset of personnel are targeted based on open source intelligence, the process is known as spear phishing, which is to say targeted phishing. In the case of the MGM attack, a spear phishing campaign was conducted to target employees whose information was available through open source intelligence. Once the attackers had enough information on an employee, they called the help desk at MGM Resorts and they requested a link to update their user credentials. The attackers were then sent a one-time password to reset their login credentials, which they used to gain access to MGM's internal network. In this case, the spear phishing campaign is technically a vishing attack, as it was performed over the phone by voice. These vishing phone calls lasted for an average of 10 minutes, and they were used to obtain login credentials. Once the attackers had standard user accounts on the network, they were able to engage in privilege escalation techniques to gain administrative level access. For those clients who have performed internal penetration tests with Trace, these types of privilege escalation techniques will be familiar. And they include things like identifying domain controllers, poisoning name resolution protocols, and obtaining and cracking administrative hashes. Other privilege escalation techniques include probing for known vulnerabilities and using frameworks like Metasploit to exploit deprecated protocols and services. After the attackers were able to move from standard user accounts to administrative accounts, they were able to gain access to MGM's Okta server. And AJay is now going to tell us a little bit about what that looked like.
Thanks, Jordan. All right, so if you are unfamiliar with Okta, it is a popular identity and access management platform. Having an Okta account is sort of like having a single key that unlocks all your online accounts. That's essentially what Okta does for businesses. It's cloud-based, and it allows employees to access various applications and resources within an organization using a single set of credentials. This simplifies login procedures and streamlines user access management. While Okta itself is a secure platform, there are potential vulnerabilities that attackers can exploit. One main possibility is compromised credentials, where attackers might gain access to privileged Okta admin credentials through social engineering, phishing emails, vishing calls, or even purchasing them on the dark web. And then with these credentials, they can do things like bypass multi-factor authentication or create other new admin accounts within Okta, granting themselves complete control over user access and permissions. Another possible Okta agent vulnerability, another vulnerability is within the Okta agent. The Okta agent is a software component installed on user devices that facilitates communication with the Okta platform. In some cases, attackers might exploit vulnerabilities within the Okta agent to intercept usernames and passwords as they're entered by authorized users, potentially bypassing the need for social engineering entirely. While Okta acknowledges its role in the MGM cyberattack, the specific details remain under investigation. What we do know, based on the reports, is that MGM shut down their Okta servers after discovering the attack, suggesting a potential compromise within the Okta platform itself. The exact way Okta was exploited remains unclear. MGM will not be disclosing specific vulnerabilities, and one reason is to avoid future attacks. So some key takeaways from this situation are that strong password policies and multi-factor authentication are crucial for all Okta accounts, especially admin credentials. Organizations should stay updated on potential vulnerabilities within the Okta platform and promptly apply available patches. And implementing security awareness training for employees can help mitigate social engineering attempts. These things can help minimize the risk of unauthorized access through Okta or through similar platforms such as OneLogin and Auth0. And now Jordan is going to tell us about the next attack phase, which was the encryption of servers.
Thanks, AJay. Once the attackers had access to MGM's Okta systems, they were able to move laterally onto the internal servers of the resort. These servers were called ESXi servers, which is an abbreviation for Elastic Sky X. This is basically a hypervisor that provides access to companies to create virtual machines. Essentially, it allows a company to run several different servers on one physical machine, which can host everything from files to websites to consumer data to emails. Once the MGM attackers had access to these ESXi hypervisors, they were able to encrypt over 100 servers using ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malicious software designed to block access to a system until a sum of money is paid to the attackers. It is very common in these types of enterprise attacks, and just last year in 2023, another major resort in Las Vegas, Caesars Palace, paid $15 million to hackers who had successfully encrypted their servers with ransomware. It's worth noting that CISA, the US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, advises companies never to pay hackers in the event of an incident, as it only further incentivizes these types of ransomware attacks. Rather, offline backups can prevent the success of these attacks by giving companies access to their data in an air-gapped environment that is separated from its online source. In the case of the MGM hack, the resort refused to pay the ransom and instead shut down all systems for almost 2 weeks. As we've already mentioned, this caused serious financial loss to the organization, and it materially impacted their third quarter earnings. Many organizations now use VMware and other virtualization solutions like ESXi to efficiently manage their servers and networks. These solutions create efficiencies, and they can save costs and time. However, the MGM hack is only the latest example of how these centralized solutions can also be leveraged against the organization in the event of an attack, where single points of failure or single points of access can lead to the loss of data or the inability to contain an incident once it's started. And now AJay is going to tell us a little bit more about what happened to MGM's data once it was accessed by these attackers.
Thank you, Jordan. So we know that once inside, the attackers gained access to and exfiltrated sensitive data and caused major disruptions to critical systems. But MGM has been pretty tight-lipped about these details, and it is unknown exactly how much and what types of data were compromised. Press releases and reports have emphasized that no financial data, such as credit card information, was accessed during this breach. Obviously, MGM wants to prioritize reassuring its customers about financial security. News reports and cybersecurity experts speculate that the stolen data might include personal information such as names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, and dates of birth. For some customers, driver's license details might have been compromised, and in a limited number of cases, social security numbers or passport details might have been stolen. While complete transparency during an investigation might be challenging, organizations should strive to keep their customers and other stakeholders informed about potential risks. MGM is doing a sort of balancing act here because releasing specific details about stolen data could potentially tip off attackers or hinder investigations. That said, this could have a significant impact on customer relations. Transparency builds trust, while lack of information can erode it. As the investigation continues, we might receive more concrete information about the specific data stolen in the MGM attack, but even without knowing the exact details, the situation really spotlights the importance of data security measures. Cybersecurity should be an ongoing investment for any business that handles sensitive customer data. And Jordan is going to give us another example of how this type of attack could unfold, but within a smaller institution.
Thanks, AJay. So it can be easy for smaller institutions to look at an organization like MGM and say, you know, there's such a prominent, high-profile business that they're naturally going to be the target of cyber attackers. But this kind of thinking can also lead to complacency, because the fact is that since 2001, over 80% of ransomware attacks have been launched against companies with fewer than 1,000 employees. That means that small institutions are the target of the vast majority of ransomware attacks like the one we've been looking at today. And here are two more salient facts. Number one, over 55% of consumers say that they are less likely to work with an institution that has been the victim of a recent cyber attack. And number two, the average cost of a data breach reached an all-time high in 2023 of $4.5 million per attack. For small and medium-sized institutions, this type of loss can often be too large to absorb. And to really bring this point home, we can look at the example of Lincoln College, a small private institution in Illinois that was initially opened in 1865. In 2021, Lincoln College was the target of a ransomware attack that originated in Iran. The school's entire digital ecosystem was encrypted, rendering all systems required for recruitment, retention, and fundraising inoperable. The school eventually paid the ransom of $100,000 to retrieve access to their data, but by that time the damage was done, and there were significant fundraising and enrollment shortfalls for the 2022 academic year. Ultimately, the school was unable to sustain its operating budget. So after 157 years of operating, Lincoln College closed its doors and declared bankruptcy. And that is only one example among hundreds of businesses and colleges that have been damaged or even driven into insolvency by these types of increasingly common ransomware attacks. And AJay is now going to outline for us the steps that businesses can take to defend against these types of attacks.
Thank you, Jordan. So shifting focus, just want to talk about this type of attack or similar attacks and how they could potentially be prevented. First off, you want to mitigate social engineering with employee training and strong password policies. Regular cybersecurity awareness training can equip staff to identify and resist social engineering tactics like phishing calls. Training should emphasize verifying caller identity and avoiding sharing sensitive information over the phone. Complex password requirements can help minimize the likelihood of stolen credentials. It's also important to implement the principle of least privilege, that is, granting employees only the access level necessary for their specific job functions. This reduces the damage if attackers gain access to a single account. Next, you want to ensure identity and access management is secure. Require multi-factor authentication for all user accounts, including privileged admin accounts. If using Okta or similar platforms, ensure strong admin credentials with limited access privileges and regularly update the Okta agent software to patch vulnerabilities. Conduct periodic security assessments to identify vulnerabilities within identity and access management systems. Additionally, practice defense in depth. Encrypt sensitive data at rest and in transit to render it unreadable even if stolen. Maintain regular backups of critical data to a secure offsite location, allowing for quick recovery in case of an attack. Develop and test a comprehensive incident response plan outlining the steps to take in case of a cyber attack. This minimizes damage and ensures a swift and coordinated response. Finally, remain vigilant. Keep yourself informed by subscribing to reputable cybersecurity resources and stay updated on the latest threats and tactics used by attackers. Foster a culture of cybersecurity awareness within your organization, encouraging employees to report suspicious activity. So in conclusion, this MGM Resort cyber attack is a really great example of how even well-resourced organizations are vulnerable to cyber attacks. Scattered Spider and Black Cat, two groups known for social engineering attacks, exploited a seemingly simple phishing call to gain access to MGM systems. This incident highlights the critical need for a multi-layered defense strategy. Smaller institutions make attractive targets due to potentially weaker security postures, but they can significantly improve their defenses by implementing strong password policies, multi-factor authentication, and regular security awareness training for staff. Additionally, data encryption, regular backups, and a well-defined incident response plan are crucial for mitigating the impact of an attack. By prioritizing cybersecurity, organizations can build trust with their members and ensure the safety of their sensitive financial data. Remember, prevention is key. Investing in a robust cybersecurity program now is far more cost-effective than dealing with financial losses, reputational damage, and member distrust that follows a cyber attack. Thank you for being here with us today, and we hope you have enjoyed this webinar. We're going to pass it back over to Marissa, and she is going to facilitate our Q&A.
All right, thank you so much, AJ and Jordan. We are going to get into questions, and y'all feel free to drop more questions as we go if you think of them. So somebody asked if, so I'm just going to read it directly. Would you say that migrating away from Active Directory and fully into Entra ID might be a mitigation technique in its own right? I can read that again if you need me to.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so migrating away from Active Directory and fully to Entra ID, would you consider that a mitigation technique in its own right?
I would say
Yeah. Hey, Jordan, you want to take a crack at it? I mean, so Entra is sort of like as an updated version of Active Directory's IAM solution, right? Still offered by Microsoft. It's a similar directory service. I wouldn't say that just migrating to Entra ID would be efficient, but I do think using the most updated technology is a wise idea. That said, you still want to ensure that all your accounts are using MFA and secure passwords and still doing user training and whatnot. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jordan, if you wanted to take a crack at that as well.
No, not at all. That was great. I was going to say a similar thing, which is that, I would say it depends on the configuration and, whether, certificates are being used, whether MFA is configured, what protocols are in use, and just not looking at anything per se as a holistic solution.
Right, and I guess Entra being in the cloud it comes with its pros and cons like anything else. Cloud computing is really powerful and versatile, and we also have to take proper cloud security measures.
Okay. Someone's asked if you have some reputable sources or newsletters to subscribe to for the current trends in news. If y'all have any favorites that you subscribe to or ones that you would recommend.
The National Credit Union Administration has some good resources for cybersecurity threat intelligence. So that would definitely be a place I would check. Also, NIST and CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, are both always good places to stay updated.
Yeah, and I listened to a podcast. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's very exciting, but it is very informative. It's called Cybersecurity Headlines, and it's just a daily, very short. The episodes are about 8 minutes long, and they just kind of smash through all of the current headlines for the day. And I've found that to be, like I said, very, very informative. And I also like to mention for entertainment, I like to listen to Darknet Diaries.
I'll add to that on the podcast front. Unsupervised learning covers a lot of recent cyber threats, and it covers it in conjunction with a lot of the newest AI platforms and the interplay between the two. So that can be a really good source as well.
Very cool. Okay. All right. So on the small front, a lot of the things that y'all have recommended, they cost money. So are there things you would prioritize or, just affordable resources that you could recommend?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff is actually, free. We've talked about things like Active Directory, and we've talked about things like, MFA. This circles back to something that AJay had talked about, which is defense in depth and making sure that, you're not relying on sort of any either single sign-on system or one-stop shop for your holistic cybersecurity. Configuring MFA on your core or configuring MFA on your online banking portal, it is free, and having strong password standards is free. This is over 10 characters and with complexity enabled and with minimum histories, things like that. So yeah, it definitely doesn't have to break the bank to take a lot of these steps to ensure that you have multiple bulwarks in place against these types of ransomware attacks. Backups, and regularly testing them is another thing we mentioned that should be part of any organization's cybersecurity posture.
Yeah, and I would add to that just starting with the basics and then identifying your most critical assets, your most critical data and systems, and then prioritizing security measures in those areas first. This kind of helps you get the most value out of your security investments. And I think it's important to just sort of recognize that even the smallest investment in cybersecurity can yield significant returns by preventing a very costly cyber attack. There are government agencies and nonprofit organizations that offer free cybersecurity resources and training materials and best practice guides. You want to look at, NIST and CISA and even OWASP. And then, yeah, I guess, and then of course, like what we're doing here today, a lot of cybersecurity firms offer free webinars and blog posts and white papers on various cybersecurity topics. So there is a lot of information out there. And like Jordan said, it's absolutely free.
And just to remind everyone, I will be sending out these slides and recording to everybody next week. I really hope you guys enjoyed it today. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.